Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness.
This is episode 66.
We hope our territorial acknowledgement improves allyship with Indigenous people within a reconciliation process. We're on the Haldimand Tract, located on the traditional territories of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We acknowledge the presence and traditional knowledge, laws, and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Be Well Together podcast. I'm Julie Wilson, and I'm here with John Webster. What are you thinking about today?
I wanted to talk about one of those social media posts I sent over to you. I just love this, and I'll explain a bit more why. The picture is it's being healthy is easy. All you have to do is, and we're going to read through what all you have to do because it's so easy. And there's a picture of the woman, and I got this off Instagram at Meow Mix, and I'm imagining it's the person who runs that site. I found a few funny things and good tips on that from her. And she has 6 arms, and she's holding up all kinds of stuff.
All you have to do is daily gratitude, meditate, sauna, hydrate, relax, dry brush.
Not done yet. Sleep well, think positive, eat well, meal prep, strength train, cardio, all while having a job and family life.
Woo, that
Easy
seems
peasy.
a lot. That seems like a lot.
Well, here's what I absolutely love about this post. It's just so well done because it's really sending 3 messages, I think. One message is there's a lot to do. And another message is it's hard to do a lot. But the message I also take from this, because it's really something that I came to on my wellness journey, is the difference, and I've talked about this, the difference between complex and complicated. And it's not complicated, it's complex. And what do I mean by that? Complicated is, I can't figure this out.
Right.
You know, like, how do I get to nirvana? I don't know, because that's a very spiritual journey, and I'm not that religion, and it just sounds like something I could never figure out. It's too complicated. Complex is, there's a lot to do. But I can work on that because I can start developing habits, making to-do lists.
You can divide it into little parcels, right?
Exactly. And so that's why I just love this, because at first you look at it and think, oh, it's pointless. Why try? But once you start to think more about it, you see this is doable. But you got to broaden your horizon. It's not just about 1 or 2 things. It's about a lot of stuff, because even the points that we just read on this list, it's only a small piece of what you need to do to try and work towards being healthy.
And in your book, you do make note of the fact that it isn't about all of these things all the time.
That's true too. And that's like the whole point about the check-in. That's the mini check-in we do with our guests at the end of every interview. Maybe you can't be doing it all at the same time, because that is asking a lot, especially as she says at the end, all while having a job and a family life. Yeah, you're going to be hard pressed to be doing everything you need to do all at the same time. But if you keep checking in, and you even think to yourself, okay, well, there's a couple things on the back burner. I'm not being able to get to them right now. As I always say, I think that's okay as long as you figure out when you can bring them back onto the front burner.
And there's always tools or things to help you develop these habits, right? So for example, hydrate, drinking water. I was the worst. Like, I never drank water, and yet I kept hearing everyone say the benefits of drinking water. I just could not get into that habit. But I set myself an app. I found a water app, and I thought, I'm going to start this at every 2 hours. And every 2 hours off my phone goes this little drop of water. And I've increased the frequency, but everyone now knows when they hear that drop of water, oh, Mom, drink water. Julie, drink water. Or if I'm working on the computer, it's just a reminder for myself. So there are little things and tools that can help you as well.
Does it ever make anyone else have a glass of water when
Yes.
you're dropped? So they're like, oh, I should have water too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for sure, there's a lot of stuff that you can do to build those habits when you have to. And some of the stuff on her list too, like for example, think positive. That doesn't actually take time.
No.
It just takes concentration. It just takes you being alert to it. So at any given moment, in any given scenario, there's different ways to react to it. And if you can start getting in the habit of trying to think positive, or at least not negative, that's something that doesn't take extra time. It just takes some concentration. So it's doable.
Exactly. Sometimes you can even put, like the thinking positive, sometimes you can even put a couple positive words, like on your wall. If you've got, your laptop or your computer or your workspace, put a couple positive words just on your wall and look at them every so often. By doing that, you're actually taking a break from looking at your computer, which is very important. Take your eyes away from the computer. So there's some physical benefits to, okay, you're giving your eyes a break. You're looking up. You take a look at one simple word. It's a positive word. So you've got that reinforcement. And I just think there's little ways like that you can just simple, but start to build those habits.
We're lucky because we just, as you know, we got new office space in the last couple of years. And one of the things all of us have in our office is a whiteboard now. One of the sections of the whole wall is a whiteboard.
Yes.
And I see a lot of the lawyers are writing a few expressions, something positive. Some people have quotes they like, other people do other things. Of course, a lot of people write down what they're working on, but there's a good number of people who have a nice positive quote or a thought of the day.
Or I've seen others go into somebody's office they work closely with and just put a happy face or just a simple word or a good expression or something like that could just make someone stay. Yeah,
like one of them, I remember in one of the cubicles, I saw someone had written, so-and-so, you're the best.
Exactly. Right? So that just, when you walk in to your office, you might be having, it might not have been a great morning. You walk in the afternoon and you see that, and what a difference something simple like that can make.
The other thing I like about this post too is, so if you're thinking about something that's complex, then there's a lot of moving parts and you have to figure out how to fit everything in. One of the big lessons I've learned and I'm trying to communicate to people is, it's not easy, but it's doable. But to make it doable, you have to be organized, right? So you do need to get strength training and cardio in. So how are you going to do that? Put it onto your schedule. Put it actually into your calendar.
That's a great idea.
Find time, because if you're too busy with all this stuff to do, like it's a great example of this post of showing how you're torn in all these different directions. Well, you have to make time for stuff. Because if you don't, you won't find time for it.
No. And you talked about your calendar and organizing. It is so true that how quickly your calendar can get filled up, and especially now that we have calendars where others can see when your availability is, right? And so your slots where you think, oh, I can go out for a walk, that might quickly get filled up if you don't block it. And to your point, make a concentrated effort that from 12 to 1, I'm going to go for a walk during that time. And I'm going to put that in my calendar so no one else can fill that spot.
Then you combine that too, the difficulty that other people are filling up your calendar. And you also combine it with this. So at the end of every episode, there's a little ending. And part of it is, please make time for wellness. You're worth it. And we mean it, because how many times have we heard interview guests when we do the wellness check-in say, you know what? I'm spending so much time devoting myself to my kids or to the charity that I'm helping or this or that. I don't make time for myself. And time and again, people talk to me about this subject and they seem to be saying they're not worth it yet. Maybe when the hard work for other people is done, maybe when my responsibility for other people is done, then maybe I'll be entitled to find some time for it. And I'm going to keep singing the song and keep telling people you are worth it. And you have to find time for this stuff. If you need to do cardio and strength training to be your best self, to feel really good, then don't let everyone fill up your calendar and don't not fill it yourself. Find time for this stuff.
Because you are worth it.
Guests are giving their time. Expanding our minds. Today's interview is in the category of mental wellness. We're speaking with Michael Herman about a concept described by Kara Hardin as the performance paradox. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, John. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Thank you for having me.
I liked this article. And did you end up publishing it on LinkedIn? I know you were going to.
I did. We published it yesterday. It was an article that really was inspired by a seminar I participated in with Kara, in which she gave a presentation which she called the Performance Paradox.
Great. So just for people listening, this probably won't air for a while. And that would have been published on April 17th and on Michael Herman's LinkedIn. So let me introduce Michael. Michael Herman is a lawyer with and general counsel to the Canadian offices of international law firm Gowling WLG, where I also work. As general counsel, Michael provides legal advice to the law firm and plays many other important roles. Michael is also highly regarded as a strategic advisor to a broad range of clients. He's busy in his complex role as general counsel, and we all benefit from his advice. I work with Michael as part of our firm's general counsel team, in addition to being a litigation lawyer. Michael's a strong advocate for mental health in the legal community. He works to raise awareness of and to eliminate stigma. He hopes to make it easier for anyone experiencing mental illness to come forward and seek help without fear of judgment. Today, Michael, I'm wondering if you can start by telling us a little bit about strivers, which is a concept you chat about in your post.
I do talk a little bit about strivers, and it's a good question because Kara defines a striver a little bit differently than what our normal understanding of the term would be. So from Kara's perspective, a striver is someone who feels safe, secure, and connected only when they meet or exceed expectations. So you're constantly trying to meet or exceed expectations, and that drives your behavior. And that's what she refers to as a striver.
And then how does that concept fit into the performance paradox?
Let me sort of preface how I'm going to answer the question by asking a question.
Sure.
So for people who might be listening, consider if you've this type of scenario. You've been praised for doing something very well, and you might feel that initial sense of satisfaction or accomplishment as a result of receiving that praise, but it's immediately followed by a sense of dread or fear. So if that seems familiar to you, you are probably what Kara would term a striver. And I know for me, that praise leads almost automatically to the thought, what do I have to do next to earn similar praise again? And so a striver is never satisfied or fulfilled. Instead, there's always new expectations, internal or external, to meet or exceed. And in a way, a striver is on this fast-moving treadmill to nowhere and doesn't know how to get off. And so the paradox is that those qualities that allow strivers to be very successful in whatever they're undertaking, whatever they're doing, are the same qualities that can lead to needless stress and burnout and what I call mental dis-ease. So it's not necessarily a mental illness, but you're just mentally not well. And that's the nature of the performance paradox.
It sounds like strivers are really in a no-win situation because they set an expectation and either they don't achieve it, in which case I imagine they don't feel too great, or they do achieve it, in which case they feel great for a second, and then they don't feel great because they don't think they can do better the next time.
I think that's right. And I think that was the essence of what Kara was trying to point out when she was doing the presentation. And again, a lot of strivers become perfectionists. A lot of strivers will deal with imposter syndrome. It can lead to all sorts of different types of way of viewing ourselves and our relationship with others. That's all linked to this need to meet or exceed expectations. That's where the striver part of it comes in.
And just before, I'm going to ask you a question to follow up on that, but you mentioned imposter syndrome. Can you just briefly tell our listeners what you mean by imposter syndrome?
So imposter syndrome, and both you and I are in the legal profession, and there are many, many lawyers in the legal profession who deal with imposter syndrome. It's the sense that we're a bit of a fraud or a phony, that people think we know everything and we're very confident and we're great legal minds or great lawyers, and yet we feel as if, not really. And so we suffer from having expectations that we think others have of us that don't meet our internal sort of perspective on who and what we are.
There's a concept in your post too, enoughness. And I'm not sure if that came from you or Kara, but tell me a little bit about the concept of enoughness.
So enoughness is a slightly different concept. And it came from an earlier article that I had written, which is also posted on LinkedIn, which is a journey I took unintentionally during the Christmas break, and read a couple of books and did a couple of other things, watched a documentary that I'd been meaning to watch for quite a while. And the idea of enoughness is that intrinsically, inherently, that we are all enough. That enoughness has nothing to do with accomplishing or achieving, and is actually not even about trying to be good enough. And Tara Brach, who is a psychologist, a Buddhist scholar, a really interesting individual, and she's written a number of books, and she sort of came up with this concept of enoughness, and that it's something that is intrinsic to all of us. And so part of the journey that I took over the Christmas break was, how would I go about trying to live a life where it was about being enough? And what would that look like? And what would that involve? And so that's where the idea of enoughness came from. And what struck me about Kara's description of the striver and the performance paradox is, how can I ever feel enough if I'm always striving to meet or exceed expectations? That those two are going to be in constant conflict and friction with each other. And it's going to make it very hard for me to feel like I am enough. And so that led me to thinking about, how would I work with this paradox?
Here you are, somebody who's thinking about all these concepts, and at one point had a bit of a breakthrough with the concept of enoughness and feeling kind of at peace with that. And then yet you recognize in yourself, you're still a striver, that these battles, rage on.
For sure. And there's no doubt about it. And actually, when I explored what I might do about the performance paradox, at least for myself, it involved doing something a bit unusual. And it really related to not trying to replace being a striver, but can I, and this really also was inspired by Kara talking about, maybe we can shift the way we relate to ourselves a little bit, and that rather than trying to replace striving with something else, perhaps what I could do was let go of the part of striving that is fueled by the need to meet or exceed expectations in order to feel safe, secure, and connected. So it's not about replacing it, it's about letting go of some of it.
That surprised me when I came to that, when I saw that conclusion, because it was kind of counterintuitive, or maybe just unexpected is the better way to phrase it. But when I thought more about it, it made a lot of sense. And the last time you were on our show back in episodes 9 and 10, we talked a little bit about this, which is a lot of times you do something, you try and figure out the right approach. You try and figure out how to approach something, and you come up with a way that makes the most sense, and you do it. and it doesn't work. And that's okay, because based on how you thought it through, that was the right process. You trusted the process. And it's okay if the right process doesn't always get you to the place you wanted to get to.
Yeah. So the way I look at it is it's all a journey, and it's all part of a journey. And along that journey, you're going to take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, sometimes 2 steps back and 1 step forward. There's going to be successes. There's going to be failures. And in terms of this concept of letting go, it's a bit frightening, because if I hold on to meeting or exceeding expectations to feel safe, secure, and connected, it's pretty frightening to say, I'm going to let go of that. That's number one. Number two is, will I continue to do my best if I'm trying to achieve goals, but I'm not motivated by the fear of what might happen if I fail to meet or exceed someone's expectations of me? So will I continue to try and perform the best I can without that added element of why I'm doing it? And what I say in my piece is that I will feel the urge to meet my needs through striving over and over and over again. And can I be sufficiently aware to let go over and over and over again? And then can I also be aware enough to notice what is likely to be a lot of self-judgment about my failures to let go? And the idea for me, John, is that if I can tolerate the discomfort for a while, and there will be discomfort, as I say, it's a lot to let go of. But if I can tolerate that discomfort for a while and realize that the type of striving that Kara is talking about is really a false sense of security, safety, and connect. It's really false. Life is going to knock me down from time to time. And hopefully I can keep getting back up each time life knocks me down. Nothing's going to prevent that from occurring to me. But if I can find it within myself to start to let go a little bit of that need to meet or exceed expectations, then it gives me the opportunity to shift a little bit from that constricted place, which is all about meeting or exceeding expectations. So that's a very constricted place to be in. And then I can shift to maybe a bit more open way of showing up, and one that makes room for a bit greater, more sustainable internal sense of freedom and allows for deeper and more meaningful types of connections. And then the safety and security will flow out of that. That's the idea.
Yeah, and there's so many things in what you've said. A couple things that come to mind. I can't touch them all, but I do think that it gives you an opportunity. So if you're trying to be your best and you're saying, I'm worried that if I let go of this, what makes me good, ironically, you're right. The constriction may be blinding you to the best approach that will get you to the best result, because you're...
That's exactly right. That's a very good way of putting it. It's exactly right.
So you actually improve your chances. But the other thing about it too is you start to learn in life that it's more than just these single victories. It's how you're doing all the way along. And if you're keeping yourself healthier as you progress, you're more capable of doing more. So it's like, for example, if you don't get enough sleep, you're worse at everything that you do.
That's right.
I do have a bit of an issue, though, when I think about doing this myself, which is it's one thing to be mentally challenging, emotionally challenging to let go. Like, can I really do it? That's hard to do on that level. But I've got another problem, which is, what do I do? Like, what do I practically do to let go? I mean, it's easy to say it. I'd have a hard time actually doing it.
So I think the letting go is, again, it's bringing awareness to it. It's acknowledging and allowing that it's there.
Okay.
Bringing awareness to it. And then through a little bit of curiosity and interest, exploring within can I just let this go? And what is going to happen? Will I still try and perform at my best? I suspect for most of us, the answer is yes, because intrinsically, we want to do our best. We want to help others. We want to do the best job we can or whatever it is we're doing. So I suspect the answer is yes, but it doesn't feel that way, as you say. And so the letting go is part of is a process. It's a process of bringing awareness, a little curiosity, a little interest as you explore it, and just holding it. Oh, is there this different way in which I can go about the manner in which I try and do my best, the manner in which I try and be the best person I can be, and let go of it all being in this very constricted, needing to meet or exceed expectations. As you say, perhaps that opens us up. And by opening us up, it actually allows us to perform better because we're freer. And we can choose what we choose based on a whole variety of other things that may open up to us as we move along that journey. But it's not something that, you flip a switch, I don't believe, at least certainly not for me, maybe for somebody else. But for me, you don't flip a switch and it's going to happen. This would be something that I see. I'm going to give it a try and we'll see what happens. But I think it's something that really requires bringing awareness and patience and just seeing if you can make space internally to allow an alternative to emerge.
On our show, we talk a lot about self-awareness and how worthwhile self-awareness is. And this is another great example. And I'm glad you're on here explaining a little bit about this, because I think a lot of people can relate to this. So let me turn to the question we ask every guest, and you know it because you've been on a prior show. We talk about different categories of wellness, and we recognize that almost none of us can keep them all going at any given time. So there's always one that needs a little bit of work. So we do this mini wellness check-in. Are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, can you think of even one thing you can do to foster wellness in that area?
The one thing that I've noticed recently, and part of it is because you get caught up in, again, I have this appointment at this time, and I've got to get to it. And so I've had started a practice of journaling in the morning. And it's really just stream of consciousness stuff for about 15 minutes. I journal 3 pages and whatever comes out, comes out. And the reason for it was that it was to replace my normal way of doing things, which was to get up and go as hard as I could for as long as I could. And that's how I spent my days. And this was an opportunity to get up and before I started my day, take a pause, relax, sit down, spend 15 minutes doing the journaling. And that put me in a different mindset with which to approach my day. And one of the things I've noticed recently is I've been very busy with a lot of work requirements, has been that I've been not spending as many days as I'd like engaging in that practice. And so the journaling has been slipping. And so one of the commitments I've made to myself is to be a bit more disciplined in making sure I take that time. It's just 15 minutes, but make sure I take the time because it's really easy to just let it go.
So much of the things we need to do are easy to let go. So you're right. I hope you do find that time. I remember the last time we talked, you were talking about how much better it made you feel when you were journaling. So yeah, I wish you luck in getting back to it, and I hope that it has the effect that it was having before.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that.
I'm Cameron, and welcome to another installment of The Adventures of the Starving Artist. I've had a kind of down week this week, to be totally honest. and trying to work myself out of a very deep hole. And to do that, or to help do that, I'd like to focus this segment on some of the positive stuff that's been going on. The biggest one is that I'm finally showing up on musicians' radar up here. And I've been asked to perform with this group that's doing a Bruce Springsteen tribute. It's like a cover band of Springsteen stuff. And while I'm not super familiar with the boss's material, maybe a couple of songs with Shy Harry, I've done a couple by myself before too, mostly as requests. It's not my usual vein, my usual genre. But I was asked to perform playing the acoustic guitar and doing some background vocals, specifically with the song Rosalita to start. Now, I had never heard this one before, and I'm sure some of you are thinking, what? How can you be a musician and not know it? Blah, blah, blah. Relax. I know it now. I learned it, and we had a very quick rehearsal, a couple days after which we had a video. And the idea is it's a live off-the-floor recording where we're performing it on a stage. We did it at a local brewery here called Overflow. Great stage, awesome room, killer sound guys. And we did a couple takes, got the video. We just got the audio back today and it sounds superb. And the idea is we'll use that as marketing material to try and land some more gigs. So it was a cool project, but what I'm most excited about is the fact that the musicians in the gig are all pros. This is not beginner musicians. This is not amateurs. These guys are all pro. And what's great about it is at this level of musicianship, and professionalism, it's not a rehearsal where you show up and learn the parts there. It's expected that you've already learned the parts, and that rehearsal is simply to put them all together with the team. And that's exactly how it went. We flew through our actual rehearsal in like 3 takes. It took maybe, 40 minutes. And then the day of, our video for Rosalita, considering it's like an 8-minute song, 7.5 minutes, we did it in 3 takes. So not too shabby. But it was a long day because they were also filming some other videos for different songs, different projects. And I checked those out just to kind of meet some other musicians and check out the venue, hear the sound with different genres, all that stuff. So some good progress is happening there. I'm excited to see where it goes. And it looks like I'll be learning some more Springsteen tunes. So stay tuned for that. That's the skinny from me this week. Thanks very much for listening. And I hope you have a great week. If you're feeling a little bit low like I have been, let's count on some sunshine and one day at a time. Thanks for listening. I'm Cameron. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
We love our listeners and thanks for joining us. Please help spread the word about Let's Be Well Together podcast. Follow us and rate us on Spotify, Apple, Google, or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram at lets.be.well.together and let your friends know about us.
Move that body like we're meant to do.
I stole Hillary Fitzgerald while we were doing a couple other interviews, and I said, hey, can we do a Move That Body? Because Hillary mentioned something I have never heard of called rucking. So what the heck is rucking?
So I just came across rucking, and I really don't even know that much about it, to be honest. But my husband was listening to a podcast. He said, hey, we should try rucking. And I said the same thing. What's that? He said, well, you have a weighted backpack and you go walking, or I guess you could run with it as well. There's specific backpacks designed for this. But when he said this to me, it was in the morning, and I happened to have a client that evening that I thought would be a perfect client to go rucking with. So
a guinea pig?
A guinea pig. Okay. And that's what I said to her. I said, well, you have a session tonight. It's only you, because there's usually another person with her. I said, it's you and I, and it was beautiful out and back to how I need to get outside all the time. I said, let's go. And she was in. So I haven't even been rucking with my husband yet. But I had knapsacks, my daughter's knapsacks,
so
and a bunch of weights.
Knapsacks?
Yep. So regular knapsacks, put a bunch of weight in there. I have plates that we used. I think we put 20 to 25 pounds in each, and we put them on our backs and we went. So we just walked around the neighborhood. It was a solid 45 minutes. I tried to take her on some incline because we have a good amount of hills around us. We did some incline, and we ended with hill sprints with these backpacks on. So I don't even know if that's called rucking. I really haven't looked into this much. I just know it's called rucking. I know it's a weighted backpack situation, and it was great.
And how'd you find the experience?
Great. I loved it, and I can't wait to do it again. And then I talked to somebody else. I said, I went rucking last night. She's like, that sounds interesting. So then she messaged me saying, I went rucking last night the next day. So she did the same thing.
Oh,
she lives in my neighborhood, and we meet up with our dogs all the time, and she loved it.
Did you happen to notice like what the benefits were, or is it still too early to tell? How's it going?
So I always think about that when I'm doing whatever exercise I'm doing. So I noticed that obviously it's a weighted walk, more weight than I'm used to on my own body. So it was harder than it would normally be, especially when we're going on an incline. I felt it in my legs more, specifically my hamstrings and my glutes. So that was a huge win because I love that. Then hill sprints, definitely harder cardio-wise, harder on the legs.
One thing I find that's kind of cool is if I'm on a really long run and it was hard run and the last kilometers were tough, I'm like, oh, that was so hard. And then I jump in the shower and then I'm walking around the rest of the day and I think, wow, this is easy.
Yes.
It's just, I can do anything. Because walking is easy. And I bet you it's kind of similar with rucking. All of a sudden you don't have this weight and you're like, I feel like, so I'm so light.
Totally. And I walk all the time because I walk with clients or we walk our dog. So lately I'm like, well, should I have this backpack on every time I'm walking? The answer is no. Like sometimes yes, but I can't wait to do it again. I've only done it once. Just my schedule hasn't allowed for it again yet. But maybe this weekend, who knows?
So you're going to be doing some internet searching for YouTube videos and special knapsacks.
Yeah. Well, I said to my husband, I said, I'm not buying a special knapsack for this. Just because, again, I don't feel the need. I'm like, I can make this myself.
Right.
And I guess the special backpacks are going to be better for your body.
Right.
The weight is going to be distributed better.
Right.
This was a little pull on our neck. That doesn't bother me. I can muster through it.
Sometimes I see people at the gym wearing kind of weighted vests.
Oh, yeah. I have those.
Do you?
Yeah, I have 3. Yeah.
But it's a different feel?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know why I didn't think of this. I think I just thought, let's use the backpack. But we could have used the weighted vest. And I'm sure that would have been great. I've done lunges in the field with a weighted vest. That was great. I've done sprints up the hill with a weighted vest. I've done many things with a weighted vest. So
but not
I don't know
walking.
why I didn't go walking with it was very last minute. Okay. I said, we're doing this. So next time I think maybe I'll wear the weighted vest.
Okay, cool. Well, I had never heard of it before, and it's something to think about.
There you go.
There's a thought. Popped up while running. I had a really good upbeat day today. Why? Because I had a bad day at the gym this morning. So how does that work? Well, I was on the treadmill, and for whatever reason, every once in a while, I just feel terrible. So it's just really hard. And I wanted to do, I think 10K this morning. So it was going to be a bit harder and it just wasn't working. And it started to feel like I had to stop and walk. So continue on, but walk some instead of run. Don't like doing that, but I did it. So a little bit towards the last third, every once in a while, I would walk a little bit, but I eventually got through the 10K run. And that's a big thing for me because in the old days, especially before I learned about much running, I would have seen that as a complete fail. So as soon as I realized that I couldn't keep going, I would struggle to keep going. And if I ended up having to walk, it'd be like, oh, this is over. I screwed up. It's done. Probably would have just stopped the workout at that point. But now I'm not thinking of it. I'm not so goal oriented, especially at this stage. Like it'd be different if maybe I was in a race. But it was just my morning gym thing. So I'm thinking, well, I just want to get my time and my run in. Not a big deal. Take me a few minutes longer than usual. Kept going. And I just felt like maybe that was me growing a bit. So that was good. But what really made me feel good was later. I wasn't really thinking about it at the time, but I got to work. And at that point, I felt fantastic because I had my run in. I had my exercise. Felt really energized. Of course, I'm just walking around the office. I'm not running. So I felt like I had a spring in my step. And then I just smiled because I thought, oh, wow, how things have changed. I had a bad day at the gym, but instead of moping and pouting, I feel amazing and I'm just making the most of it. So bad day at the gym, really upbeat day. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin.
I've got a quote here, Sheila, that is attributed to the actor Jet Li. Pretty cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it's actually him. Like, this is something you might hear from lots of people, but I love the way he put it. And the quote says, "Some talk to you in their free time, and some free their time to talk to you. Learn the difference."
I love it.
And that's something that, you know, people think and talk about at work. You know, when you're talking about building relationships between the people you work with and having a nice team work environment, you can't just go through the motions. You can't just, you know, hello, how are you? How was your weekend? You have to actually care.
Yeah, you actually have to care. And I am bad for this. So I actually learned this from you, from this podcast, actually, when you were talking about your mental health training program and how you should be an active listener.
Yes.
And I felt like I wasn't an active listener. I'd often talk to someone and want to veer the conversation to what I know or what I want to say instead of actually listening to what they're saying. And I'm also a very busy person, like just in my mind, I'm just busy. So sometimes I need to stop and make time to talk to people.
I think part of what you just said too kind of clicks with me with this, because if you think about freeing your time, like, you don't always have to say to someone, wait, let's stop.
Yes.
Let's make time to talk.
Let's stop what we're doing and sit down and talk.
But your point, I think what you make a really good point about is, if you are an active listener, if you actually care about the people and you're listening to them, you'll recognize moments when you should say, hey, you know what? I want to drop other things I'm doing. Let's just stop for a second. You know, so it's not, I don't think this is saying that you always have to drop everything you're doing to talk to people.
No.
But you need to be alert, and you need to know that people are finding time to talk to you when you need it. And I think, you know, the more basic point is just, if time goes by and you haven't spoken to someone and you haven't tried to make time, well, that's not great either.
No, yeah, that's true. You have to make time. And relationships are so important, all types of relationships, and you do have to make time in those relationships. So I think it's, when I look back, those are the most meaningful things when you're talking to people and having conversations and learning more or getting to know them.
It is interesting too, because the point you make, like, so the first part, some people talk to you in their free time.
Yeah.
And I do find, like, it's not unusual for the people who are only kind of the fair weather friends, you know, like, yeah, you can come over because I'm not doing anything important. You know? Yeah, I'm not doing anything today, so this would be a day you can come over and say hi.
Yeah.
Those tend to be the kind of people too that do kind of what you were saying, where you're like, hey, here's what's going on in my life. And they're going, yeah, that reminds me of my life. Let's talk about my life.
It's like they're not really listening to you or finding time for you.
Yeah. And I think part of the quote too is, okay, well, you want to find the time, people who do free their time. I think part of it's saying you should appreciate it, right? So if you have, this is telling you who your go-to people are. And so if you are going through something, and another message we talk a lot about on the show is, it's not, the choice isn't just keep it to yourself or only talk to a professional. Like, we definitely say, if you feel like you need to talk to a professional, please do that.
Yeah.
But most of the conversations are, you're going through something, you want to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And I love Jet Li's point that the people who make time for you to talk to you and who are actively listening to you, those are your go-to people.
Yeah. And what I'm saying for me personally is that sometimes I have an agenda, I'm doing this stuff, and someone is talking to me and I need to stop what I'm doing. It's hard for me because I got to get this done, I got to get all this stuff done. It's hard for me to stop. And sometimes I have to stop and listen because this person needs me to listen to them. So that's all I'm saying. Yes, you need to make time to talk to people.
Yeah, great quote and great thoughts. Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way.
And it's sign-off time. It's Sheila here with Elise and John. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't have a lot going on. I've been very busy with work. I've been working full-time for the last month, and my coworker will be coming back, so I won't have to work next week. Also,
all?
Oh, no, I'll work my normal hours.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. But I have been doing a lot of wedding stuff. So our son is getting married this Saturday. I can't believe it's coming up so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I've just been dotting my I's and crossing my T's and getting all that work done and going dress shopping with grandma and, just doing all the little things that you need to get done. And that has been taking up a lot of my time. But I had a great time up in Collingwood this weekend, even though it was rainy. We really relaxed and enjoyed the environment, and we watched a movie. It was just very nice me time. So that's all I have to say. And what about you, John?
Well, you said at the start that you weren't that busy. I actually think you're so busy that you're kind of numb. So
I know.
For my part, I'm getting busier and busier. It seems like everything's starting to speed up at the same time, from the stuff I'm doing with my law association to the podcast to work. It was nice to have a great weekend. It was kind of like the calm before the storm. I think I'm going to be inundated. I'm really excited right now because tomorrow I get to interview former pro hockey player Shane Corson, who I used to watch. He was the captain of my favorite hockey team. I used to watch him on the ice. He blew me away. Well, it turns out that he had a lot of issues with things like anxiety and depression and even panic attacks. And he's now willing to share his story with people. And the interview isn't actually for the podcast. It's for the Waterloo Region Law Association. We have a mental health committee and we bring in speakers to talk to our lawyers about mental health issues. And Shane Corson will be sharing his story. And I was really thrilled because they asked me, because I do these podcast interviews, if I could do the Q&A. So I'm going to have to try and keep my fanboy in check because I'm going to really want to be like, wow, I can't believe I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
But I'm just so appreciative of the fact that people like Shane are willing to share their story, because that's what's going to help break down the stigma. And hopefully that will help somebody who needs some help with a mental health issue to reach out for help. So that's going to be really cool. And a quick shout out to my work colleague and friend, Jacqueline Armstrong Gates. She made my day this morning. She came in the office and said, John, I had to drive to Ottawa this weekend and I was able to catch up on all the podcast episodes. And I was like, wow, that made me feel great.
That is so great.
So thanks, Jay. How are you doing, Elise?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm actually just getting over a cold. So the past week has really just been about resting and relaxing and just trying to get lots of rest in, because this cold has been really tough on me. Those kindergartners can spread a lot of germs. And I think I caught a really bad chest cold. So I'm happy to be improving from that. But I have had a really fun work week. So that's kind of been my highlight. I was able to work on the DELF, which is a French fluency exam. I work as an examinator. So I interview the students who are grade 12 students in French and then mark them on their French fluency in order to get a certification, which is pretty cool. And they can use that for their university degrees. So I was able to do that 2 times this week, which was a really nice change of pace.
That sounds cool.
Really cool.
Yeah.
But is that really the word, examinator? I mean, that sounds made up.
Well, in French, it's examinatrice. So maybe, I don't know, examinatrice. I'm not sure. Examinator? I don't know. It sounds right.
Let's go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
So-
I'm like, I don't know what it would be.
Examiner? Does that sound better?
Examiner. Yeah, I think examiner.
Should I say it again?
Well, no, don't.
No.
Like the thing is, like examinator, it sounds like an Arnold
Like a
Schwarzenegger.
Terminator.
That was wrong. You must die.
That's pretty much what I do. Yeah, but it was nice to have a change of pace. They say change is as good as a rest. So I feel good for this week and hoping to just continue to improve.
Very good.
I think that's it for us today. So we hope everyone has a wonderful week.
That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.